It is Friday, September 6th, 2019. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of coin metal. And it was a very exhaustive, get your ass kicked at Jiu-Jitsu Friday. Got my ass kicked. Some days you're the hammer, some days you're the nail. Today, I was the nail. Smushed, smashed, passed. It was terrible. But, we need these days. We need these days to kind of balance everything out, to get us a fresh perspective, because it's not too good if all you're doing is winning. I mean, you gotta know where your weaknesses are, what you need to work on. And you don't learn any of those if you just continually beat up on everybody in your class, And so, today was a little bit of, I can't even remember all the stuff we were going on today. I think we did a little bit of a Kimura from the closed guard. I think that was like the one technique I can remember that we actually covered today. And I really like that one because I tend to hold people in my guard. But I had a little bit of trouble actually trying to execute it and incorporate it into the sparring. And I don't know, I always have this trouble like implementing actual jiu-jitsu instead of just pressure and muscle and all that other stuff, Although I will say this, as much as I was getting my ass handed to me today, one of the gentlemen that I was rolling with had me in what would have been a really good arm triangle had he had the right angle on my chin. But I managed to get my chin down and kind of pop it out of his hands, basically. I've gotten him in an arm triangle a couple times, so I'm sure it was one of those things of trying to get a little bit of revenge. But the takedown was mine, and so that's probably the best I could savor today. Is that the one opportunity to do actual a takedown from standing today. Against a guy who's built much like myself, actually. He's a little bit heavier. But nonetheless, I was able to get a takedown on him. And so that I feel a little bit good about that. Only because it's like the least worked part of my game, other than, of course, legs. That's like the least worked part of my game is legs. But yeah, like I said, I spent a lot of time in really uncomfortable positions and just trying to avoid being submitted, and for the most part I was good at that today. I think I got submitted once. No, I did not tap once today, and I did not get any submissions today. So like I said, it was mostly a defensive day, and as much as I don't like these kind of days, like I said, you do need them. You do need to understand where exactly you could be doing a little bit better. But I did, I've rolled with this one gentleman several times before, and the one thing I've always noticed is that I cannot allow the guy to get into a dominant position, because he's really good at maintaining a dominant position. Nonetheless, I did manage to get on top after he was maintaining a top position on me for quite a while, honestly. But I managed to get on top, but I did not get anywhere with it. It was just a matter of changing the position from screwed to maybe going to work something out. But yeah, like I said, it was a tougher class, but I felt good going in it, and I felt pretty good throughout. My knee has been bothering me a little bit, but today was not quite as bad as normal. So I got to think that the additional day off that I've had this week kind of gave me a little bit more time to recover, and we do need that. I had a couple of weeks recently where I was just not getting any recovery, and this is after I'd messed my knee up, and so I know that I wasn't doing myself any favors with regard to healing. And like I said, you do have to give yourself time to do that. It's not that far into the future yet where we can just take a pill and it bonds the shit going on with your knee or your elbow or your shoulder or whatever, and you can just get back in it and go. But, you know, I have confidence that eventually we will get there. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw down into some music. And, of course, we've got to play the body count. But where to go? I think I haven't played this one enough. 99 Problems and a Bitch Ain't One by Body Count. First Dance. Here on Coin Metal. And that was Slipknot with The Devil in I. And so, you know, it's funny, I was just reviewing my my Twitter feed during the music break, and I happened to notice this thing. Let's see, Randy Eitzelman, Randy underscore Eitzelman on Twitter posted this, and apparently she was retweeting something that Donald Trump had posted. And I'll tell you what, Jack Dorsey's account got hacked recently. And so I'm watching this thing, and I swear it's like the most internet level. And when I say internet level, I mean it's like you have to be somebody who's familiar with internet and social media and the vernacular and memeing. You know, you got to know what you're talking about or know what you're doing in order to do a proper meme. And this meme is fucking hilarious. It makes me think that maybe Donald Trump's account maybe got hacked. I don't know. All I can say is, if not, savage, sir. Savage. I agree with Randy here. Absolutely savage. Good stuff, man. Anyway, as far as what we're going to get into today, you know, this one, it might be clickbaity as fuck, but we've been talking about Craig and the case and all that other bullshit. And so I got this article here. It's on Medium. The Tulip Trust is fake. This is by Sam Williams, and it was authored September 4th, so approximately 2 days ago. But yeah, I don't know. That does sound kind of tasty, don't you think? I mean, all of this. A lot of the court testimony and whatnot revolved around the existence of this Tulip Trust thing. And so for this guy to assert that it is in fact fake, gotta fucking click on that, man. Here it is. So here are 3 reasons why. Craig Wright's story involves a trust document between himself and David Kleeman created June 2011. This trust was supposedly superseded by more formal trusts, but this article will only focus on this first trust document. The original Tulip Trust has recently been defended by Ellie Afram as not sufficiently proven to be a fake. I will show that it is undeniably a fake, and Afram is either complicit in the lie or just a willing pawn. Or completely oblivious. It could happen. You never know. The original documents are available at this link. The file called requested_attached.rar. Well, there's 2 periods in there. Contains the same .msg file submitted by Wright's team as part of discovery. This file includes 3 attachments: the original Tulip Trust PDF, tuliptrust.pdf, a PGP signature for that file, tuliptrust.pdf.asc, and a PGP-encrypted.tar file, tuliptrust.pdf.tar.asc. The PDF signature correctly validates the PDF file against David Kleeman's public key. While there are no obvious errors with dates and times, there are several undeniable mistakes that prove this is a forgery. Let's see, there's a picture here, and then it says the Tulip Trust PDF was actually signed by David A. Kleeman's PGP key, but not actually on 2011. Reason number 1. The GNUPG version headers indicate the document was signed after 2013. Dr. Matthew Edmond described how the GNUPG software would include the full version number during the time period when the Tulip Trust was supposedly signed. For example, quote, version GNUPG version 2.0.22. To change the change to emit only the major version was made in late November 2013 and released in 2014. And then here it says GPG change armor version header to emit only the major version. The armor version in both .asc files contains only one major version, and that's GNUPG version version 2. While the version number itself is not signed, it is unbelievable that someone would manually edit the number to remove the minor version. This shows that the signature was not actually made until at least 2013, and the key did not belong to David Kleeman. Reason number 2. 3 of the PGP keys referenced in the trust document are backdated. Let's see here. Created. Rights keys were not updated. It was there's an image here of it, and then a notice at the bottom there for public sub key packet created 1 2 blah blah blah. All right, never mind. This argument has been around for a while. However, the rebuttal given by Craig Wright has been thoroughly debunked. In a nutshell, the evidence is that the keys referenced in the Tulip Trust have certain algorithms in certain order that were incredibly unlikely to have been present at the time they were created. Wright's paper argued that the keys could have been updated at a later time. However, updating a PGP key to include a different set of those algorithms would re-sign the key and update the timestamp to match when they were updated and re-signed. This did not happen with Wright's key, so we know they were not updated. They were just backdated to 2008. Additionally, Wright's key includes a signed user ID packet. And the user the user ID on here is Craig at integrers.com, and that was January 17th, 2008. Email with domain Integris supposedly signed on January 2008. The signature was supposedly created on January 17th, 2008 using an email address of Craig at Integris.com. However, the domain Integris.com did not exist until April 26th, 2009. Integris.com domain report. Get everything we know about Integris.com in one downloadable PDF document. Your report will include historical screenshot, historical whois records, web hosting, DNS events, connected domains, blah, blah, blah. 10 years of... April 20... Let's see. This report will cover 10 years of history. April 26th, 2009 to August 16th, 2019. Interesting. The business itself was not registered until May 11th, 2009. Either Wright somehow knew he would use that email address almost a year and a half before he bothered to register it, or the key was not actually created in 2008. Or he could have had an email server pre-existing with that. And never mind. Anyway, continuing. Reason number 3. The emails and PDF files containing the trust files were forged. As part of the discovery process, Wright turned over a number of PDFs and emails relating to the Tulip Trust. These have all been shown to be forgeries. An excellent detailed summary of the recent court proceedings can be read here. Basically, the PDFs contain metadata that included email headers, which showed the message was actually sent from Wright to himself in 2014. Let's see, it says from Craig S. Wright at craig@panopticrypt.com to Craig S. Wright, craigpanopticrypt.com. In addition, the PDFs also had metadata showing the PDF document itself was modified to change the text to indicate the message was sent in 2011 instead of 2014. And let's see, it says for line 93, it was Friday, 17th October 2014 at 12:04:57 p.m. And for line 99, what? Okay. 24th June 1. Interesting. Text out of October of 2014. Email. I was just checking the inputs and outputs here. Finally, Dr. Edman analyzed the .message file and found it too had been forged. And got an image here of a document, a Unix timestamp with milliseconds highlighted. It includes a Unix timestamp on the receiving SMTP server ID. The timestamp is October 24th, 2012 in UTC. This indicates that the .message file was simply modified from an existing message file around late 2012. However, Ellie Ephraim's version of the .message file does not seem to include that timestamp. Oh, that's where he could be acting as a complicit. Ellie Ephraim's version seems to be a truncated and modified version of the original .msg file. His version does not include many of the header fields from the .message file submitted by Wright. Also, the message ID is completely different. Finally, the time zone of the date field indicates a UK time zone, when the original .msg header indicated a time zone consistent with Florida, where Kleeman lived. The question is, why is Ephraim talking about this new .message file and throwing around accusations that Wright did not get a chance to submit it as evidence? Is he lying, or is he simply a willing pawn? That's an interesting question. So yeah, apparently the thing is that it would be easier to dismiss if we hadn't already seen examples of Craig supposedly having done the same thing, fraudulently created documents and presented them as evidence backing his version of events. And so, you know, again, I'm just as confused as I've ever been with regard to Craig Wright. However, I don't really believe that he is Satoshi. For one thing, I don't believe Satoshi would have been stupid enough to come forward. I mean, because literally, it's like this. If you claim to be Satoshi Nakamoto, you face lawsuits and jail time. And I don't care which way you spin it. We're talking billions of dollars in either defense and fines and fees and all that other shit, or just jail time. You know, I mean, probably both, but in the billions of dollars. So yeah, claiming to be Satoshi Nakamoto is not a smart thing to do. And the fact that Craig Wright was silly enough to do it, you know, hey, that speaks to his character. But then you got to look back at all of the other behavior that he's displayed, and again, forgeries, people lying for him, and so on. We've seen this again and again from him, and so it's like you can kind of look at it all in the same lens there. You know, that if he's willing to lie about one thing, he's probably willing to lie about a lot of other things too. You know, and of course it could be just some big old ruse that he is in fact Satoshi Nakamoto and he's just playing around with us here, but I really doubt it. I mean, those are the kind of thoughts that I had when he first came out. It's like, is this guy just playing with us? And I mean, he had a lot of people with significant reputations in the cryptosphere backing his claim. And so it was that much more believable, and drew bigger question marks for me. It's like, are these people actually acting in concert with him, or is he in fact Satoshi Nakamoto and he's given them some information that he's never bothered to share with the rest of us? It's all possible. Personally, I think he's just trying to buy time until he can access the funds and then abscond with them, but I don't think it's actually going to happen. Because nobody really talks about it, but there is the question of some hard drives that supposedly Craig had lifted from the Kleeman estate, claiming that they were his property or something like that. I can't remember exactly what. But supposedly he has people working on trying to crack them. Now, whether they in fact contain the keys to the 1 million Bitcoin that Satoshi holds or held is still a question. It could. Wouldn't that be fucked up? That let's just say for a moment that Craig isn't Satoshi, but he is one of the people that David Kleeman told that he was Satoshi Nakamoto. He made the mistake of telling Craig that he's Satoshi Nakamoto. Anyway, that at one point or another he might have grown to suspect that Craig was being deceptive or whatever, or actually had some designs on his coins, and so he misindicated where the funds were. And he had a couple encrypted hard drives, and he said, "Yep, got those got the keys on those hard drives there. Nobody will be able to crack them. It'll take years to crack them. It's not really worth it, blah, blah, blah." And actually had the keys somewhere else entirely. And just, kind of let Craig believe that the hard drives held the keys. And so, what if? And it's like he goes through all the trouble of dedicating years to cracking these hard drives and finds like a JPEG of an ice cream shitting unicorn or something like that, and just like, could you imagine? You're just like, no! It'd be worse than Captain James T. Kirk in what is it, Wrath of Khan. When Spock dies, Khan! Yeah, it'd be worse than that. So, I don't know. I think this whole thing is a boondoggle. It'll probably take another year or two to completely sort out, or at least, slow Greg's production of bullshit down enough for everybody to catch up to him. But the thing of it is that I've known people that just compulsively lie, and like about everything, about anything. You can you could drink a glass of milk and put the empty glass down, and they would tell you that they drank it or something, and then like try and find some way to explain it to you to where it could be possible or even plausible. I don't know. It's like I can't really. I have a hard time thinking about like what compels people like that. But like I said, I've known people like that. I know they exist. Oddly enough, both of the ones that I've known were British. So I gotta wonder what that says about the UK and its territories and the people within. I don't know. Maybe nothing. But the point being that liars exist, liars lie, and whether or not Craig is a compulsive liar or Satoshi Nakamoto, I'm in the 90% or 99% compulsive liar camp, and 1% in the possibility that he really is that smart. I just don't think he is. Anyway, continuing on, that was just kind of like something that I had to click. I had to click it. it's something we've been talking about, But anyway, as far as identities and who's and what's what, I got this article here on technologyreview.com. Kind of wanted to get into this. This is by Mark Orcutt. It was authored September 6, 2019. So yes, penis. The U.S. government has a hidden weapon it could deploy against Bitcoin. If you're interested in the future of cryptocurrency, you should probably get to know the Bank Secrecy Act, a nearly 50-year-old law that requires financial institutions in the U.S. to help law enforcement agencies police money laundering. The government could someday try to use the law to impose strict controls on how and whether certain blockchain-based currencies can be used. Actually, they can. They can say a bunch of shit, but the thing is getting you to comply with it. And not everybody lives here, and it's plausible that you were living somewhere else when you did something. Continuing on. Take it from David Murray, a vice president at the Financial Integrity Network, a consulting firm in Washington, D.C. that focuses on illicit finance. In testimony this week before a Senate subcommittee, Murray called on the government to expand its powers under the BSA to combat the use of cryptocurrency by human traffickers. Oh, give me a fucking break. Quote, virtual assets are vulnerable to illicit finance because they offer rapid and irrevocable settlement and the potential for anonymity, he said. Traditionally, efforts to weed out illicit finance have focused on banks and other financial intermediaries, but public blockchain networks like Bitcoin pose unique challenges for law enforcement. The BSA, for instance, mandates that financial institutions collect certain information about their users and file reports to the U.S. Treasury Department when transactions are larger than $5,000 or otherwise qualify as suspicious. But since a global network of computers, not a centralized institution, validates Bitcoin transactions, who are they supposed to regulate? To tighten its grip on cryptocurrency, Murray said the Treasury Department should broaden the BSA's definition of a, quote, financial institution to include certain cryptocurrency service providers as well. While cryptocurrency exchanges and crypto asset storage providers are already covered by the BSA, other important participants in blockchain systems remain outside of the law's scope, and that should change, Murray argued. The group he mentioned specifically was, quote, virtual asset transaction validators, i.e. miners. Different blockchain systems work in different ways, but in all of them, participants who run the software, the network users are required to validate new transactions. Bitcoin and similar cryptocurrencies call them miners because they receive newly minted digital money in exchange for this activity. Murray said the U.S. should regulate miners as so-called money service businesses. What an asshole. But regulating miners would, quote, basically make this technology non-viable, at least in the U.S., says Peter Van Valkenburg, Director of Research at Coin Center, a blockchain-based advocacy group in Washington, D.C. It's also probably not even feasible. Given the global pseudonymous nature of Bitcoin and other systems, it would be difficult, if not impossible, to identify and locate all miners who could just move to other countries with less strict rules. Besides, says Van Valkenburg, it doesn't make sense to force Bitcoin miners to keep track of their customers the way a financial institution would, since they don't really have customers. Quote, they have no idea who has requested transactions on the blockchain, he said, adding, quote, they are just running the protocol in hope of a reward. Van Valkenburg notes that the Treasury Department has long had the power to broaden the BSA's definition of a financial institution to include cryptocurrency miners, but thus far it has explicitly chosen not to. The international body in charge of policing money laundering, the Financial Action Task Force, the FATF, has also chosen to avoid regulating miners, instead focusing on cryptocurrency exchanges. That's because cryptocurrency exchanges actually fit the fucking bill with regard to their responsibilities as a fiduciary and a custodian of your funds. Continuing. It's not beyond the realm of possibility that this could change, perhaps in the wake of some future crime that involves the use of cryptocurrency. If U.S. authorities ever do try to expand their powers under the BSA to crack down on cryptocurrency, though, they'll be in for a fight. Van Valkenburg argues that using the BSA to regulate cryptocurrency software developers and individual users would be unconstitutional. Goddamn right. But let's go a little bit further on there. Not only we've seen this play out before. We've already seen this shit. And it's been a failure. It's been proven to be a fucking failure. Venezuela tried this like 3-4 years ago. They tried policing the miners and busting them. And they were stealing they didn't make it like de facto illegal, but they made it like a finable offense or something like that. And so what was happening is the cops would come, they would confiscate the mining equipment, and then they would take it home. Rather than letting it sit in some sort of storage area or whatnot as evidence exhibit A or whatever, in some case against you, they would take the fucking miners home, they would set them up at home, and they would mine themselves. This is fucking stupid. I mean, worse yet, we've already seen instances where people have been caught working at like nuclear plants and shit like that, empowering their miners right there at the source. You know, that's the kind of abuses that you see when the incentives have been thrown off by certain players and certain actions going on in the networks, where the incentive to mine is not as profitable as it should be, and so they're having to find other ways to power their miners, you know, offset their electricity costs. So yeah, it's that shit doesn't work. Trying to regulate miners does not work. And again, you know, there's also this balance of trying to stifle innovation and trying to allow innovation to continue. You know, and so while you do limit some people and you might even get some compliance, what you'll also see is the innovation end of things is going to shrivel up and dry, and the use of those cryptocurrencies will go down. I mean, this is cryptocurrencies are more like social media networks in this way. You know, if it benefits you to be on a social media network, you'll be on one instead of another. Well, cryptocurrency mining is the same way. If you can't make money mining one cryptocurrency, there are several others that you could be mining profitably. And then, of course, turning around and exchanging those coins for the coin that you were actually wanting to mine, but couldn't afford to do profitably. And I think this is a resistance point that people trying to get into mining have had a lot of trouble getting over, where they don't seem to understand that altcoins are just as profitable, if not more so, than Bitcoin itself. And so mining those instead can benefit you more. But yeah, you know, you gotta go with your own interests. You know, if Bitcoin isn't satisfying your needs, if it isn't fulfilling your interests, you know, or seeing to your interests, you know, whether it be micropayments or whatever, you gotta pick up and leave. You gotta move on to another coin that actually does what you need it to do. And this again, we've talked multiple times about this on the show, that the more you squeeze, the more dark this shit all goes. I mean, we've been years ahead of regulation and whatnot for quite a while now with privacy coins. And I've been seeing some evidence. I talked about it a few times on the show also, is Alt Bloom number 2, 2.0. I think we are going to see another Alt Bloom. And it won't matter how much regulation there is. The internet is pretty much a global market. It's just a matter of getting access. And if you're denied access by certain legal entities and whatnot, there are plenty of ways to circumvent them. And an intent individual will participate whether or not you want them to. And we've seen this in China. They've got this great green firewall of China. Well, there's plenty of evidence out there that there are people that are circumventing it. So, again, why am I going to believe that any government actually could implement their will? Oh, hey, wait a minute. I didn't even finish talking about Venezuela. It's really funny what happened after their miners were ganked. They turned around and they started making gaming rigs, like really, really heavy-duty gaming rigs with multiple GPUs in them, and they would mine with that instead, and so they were mining altcoins, and the cops would come, but they couldn't tell where the miners were, because, dude, that's my gaming rig, dude. I'm playing fucking World of Warcraft, I'm playing StarCraft, I'm playing some shit where, I really need a really high frame rate. and so this is my box for that. So no, we don't do any mining here. And as soon as the cop leaves, you switch back to the desktop that is managing your mining, and you bump everything back up to normal production level, and you carry on with your day. But that's exactly what happened in Venezuela, and that is exactly what we're going to see here in the United States. If they were to ever get really, really ballsy about wanting to hammer down on miners. And I've talked about this multiple times too, where, when people are talking about regulatory clarity, this is what they're talking about. They're talking about licensing and registering you out of this shit. But here's the thing. Without you mining this shit, there is no interest in it for you. It's just another fucking coin. And you're just as capable of picking up stakes and go find another fucking coin that they don't have that much control over. And there are still plenty of ways to communicate with other people that are interested in cryptocurrencies that will get you back in line. That you will be able to find something out there that is darker and more hidden, and you'll be doing your shit there. And it's really a shame, too, because that's part of the thing of having a public blockchain, is that everybody can look at it and say, oh, yeah, there's a transaction there, there's a transaction there, ooh, they just got a block reward. We can verify that shit constantly, right? But now when you take the economy of the planet off of that network, now all of a sudden the value of that coin is going to go down because there aren't as many people mining it, because there aren't as many people using it, because they can't. They've been restricted. They've been regulated right out of it. And we might see a thing where only legacy providers such as Goldman Sachs or whatnot will be miners because they can afford the regulatory cruft. But they'll only be miners for Bitcoin. Whether or not you will be using that coin is a question. And see, I believe that the more people are licensed out of projects, the more they will go to darker projects. Ones where the governing authorities simply have no grip. And we're going to play this game until the powers that be understand that it is cost prohibitive to even fantasize about trying to regulate this shit. And especially in the ways that they're talking about regulating it. Anyway, let's get off of that one here. And I got this next article here. It's Wyoming. Got to get into this. And this is on Forbes.com, and it was authored March 4th. No, we're not going to read this one. Fuck you. It's too late. I think I did an episode about Wyoming. I said Wyoming doesn't exist, or Wyoming regulates itself off the map, or some shit like that. Anyway, continuing on. This has been one of the angles that certain government entities, have tried several times so far and have failed each time. But China's going to try and do it anyway. And this is another one of the ways where, they're trying to narrow it down. They're trying to regulate everybody out of it. But again, if you can't participate in it, what interest do you have in it? Especially when there are other economies and other coins that you can participate in. Anyway, continuing on. This is on BitcoinMagazine.com, and this might actually be from another place. Apparently it was from 8BTC, I think. Anyway, continuing. China's central bank digital currency undergoes, quote, restricted access test. Okay. So this was originally on 8BTC. I knew it! So we're going to go to 8BTC. And this was authored by Vincent He. So yes, penis. A dedicated team from the central bank's digital currency research lab is now developing the system in a closed-door environment away from the PBOC's downtown Beijing headquarters, as a report revealed on September 5th. China's central bank's digital currency has begun a restricted access test to simulate payment scenarios involving, quote, some commercial and non-governmental organizations. The test may be the integration of each module developed by the CBDC, in which the outflow and inflow of digital money will form a complete closed loop. On September 4th, Chang Chun-mu, a deputy director of the Payment and Settlement Department of China's central bank, opened a public course, quote, Fi-Tech Frontier, Libra and Digital Currency Prospect, on iGet app, which was the first public lecture given by central bank officials. An academy of China's central bank located in Shenzhen has begun to recruit a large number of technical talents in blockchain area, including Director of Trade and Financial Products, senior economist, business innovation researcher recently. By August 4th, the Digital Currency Institute of the Central Bank had applied for 74 patents for digital currency. According to its patent application, the upcoming CBDC may be just like a cryptocurrency on a point-to-point trading system, but it will strip away the anonymity and decentralization like most cryptocurrencies. The work has been expedited as Facebook unveiled in June its vision for Libra, a global cryptocurrency to facilitate payments. The Libra announcement rattled governments around the world, spurring congressional hearings in the United States and bold new thinking about central banks, such as Bank of England Governor Mark Carney. The recent public course on the app has revealed more details about the CBDC. The course is divided into 8 lectures, focusing on Libra's characteristics and impact, the exploration of China's central bank, the principle and characteristics of blockchain technology, and the perspective from the financial authorities. Mu thinks Libra does not adopt pure blockchain technology, but a hybrid architecture, so it cannot be regarded as a cryptocurrency based on blockchain. Indeed. Whenever the CBDC launches, the central bank may not roll it out nationwide on day one. Yeah, I don't think they will either. As a matter of fact, like Libra, I don't expect this one to go out either. Especially because Tether is already considering, and I don't know where they're at with regard to this, but they're already considering making their own digital currency based on the yen. And so or renminbi rather. And so I don't think that we're going to see this thing take off. That there are several entities already preparing to scoop Libra and apparently the CBDC in coming out and representing Chinese renminbi on cryptocurrency exchanges. And so yeah, I think this will be a waste of money, and in the longer term, while they may try and set up some sort of regulatory regime that their own coin is able to fit within, but nobody else's coin is able to fit within, I think they're going to find out in really short order that people just aren't going to use it. You know, that's the thing about choice. You know, when you're able to decide things based on your own criterion, especially when you're considering your own interests in the exchange. When you're in control of that, the finality and necessity of using such a currency as the CBDC goes down significantly. We've already seen this with like Catalonia coin and I think Navajo coin and a few others where the interest just kind of diminished after a while. You know, it's like it had its little flash in the pan, its little draw of interest, and then everybody got over it and moved on. You know? But yeah, I think the same thing is happening to the Petro, and I don't doubt that China is going to see the same thing. What I think will happen in the wake of this is that people are going to start using altcoins even more. Because they'll be looking at other cryptocurrencies and they're like, okay, well, Bitcoin's really tracked and Ripple is really cozy with all the central banks. You know, which ones are available or left available? Well, let's see. There's Monero, there's Litecoin, there's another 2,000 fucking coins out there. And if you can get your business partners to agree to exchange in them, that's all that's needed. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into some music. And where'd it go? Well, I know I play the shit out of this song, but I love this song. This song, it's one of those that fits so many situations, and I think that it fits this one as well. So here it is. Soundgarden, Jesus Christ Pose, here on Coin Metal. And that was Voivod with I Conspiracy. And speaking of I stuff, I got this article here on btcmanager.com. And let's see here. This is by Ogwu Emmanuel. Let me check something really quick here. Ogwu, come on, damn it. No profile for Ogwu. So, yeah, I'm just going to go with statistical predominance and say yes, penis? I don't know. Anyway, here it is. Apple could be joining the cryptocurrency bandwagon. Apple eyeing cryptos. Despite the fact that one of the founders of Apple Inc., Steve Wozniak, is also one of the heavyweights behind the Cardano ADA distributed ledger technology project, the firm is yet to warm up to cryptocurrency or blockchain technology. However, it appears that may all change shortly. Per sources close to the matter, Jennifer Bailey, Vice President of Apple Pay, a centralized mobile payment and digital wallet service, has hinted that the multi-billion-dollar tech giant is paying close attention to cryptocurrency, as it firmly believes the nascent digital asset class has long-term potential. In her words, quote, "We're watching cryptocurrency. We think it has interesting long-term potential." While a good number of highly reputable institutional investors such as the Intercontinental Exchange, ICE, which is the parent company of the New York Stock Exchange, Fidelity Investments, a multi-trillion-dollar asset management firm, and others have since joined the crypto movement, Apple's entry into the space could further boost mass adoption of Bitcoin and altcoins. Commenting on the exciting development, Dan Ives, an analyst at Wedbush Securities, reiterated that, quote, "It would be a massive shot in the arm for crypto if Apple headed down this path. Given where Apple strategically is focused, a move into crypto could make sense given its sights on further monetizing its customers over the coming years." Mission Impossible. Launched in 2014 with a vision to transform the world of mobile payments via a user-friendly and secure payment system, Apple Pay reportedly processes nearly 1 billion transactions monthly. While the integration of blockchain technology into its payment business would enable it to offer lower fees on cross-border payments, the regulatory hurdles it must scale before launching its own cryptocurrency may deter Apple from treading that path in the long run. Mark Zuckerberg's Facebook officially revealed plans to launch the Libra global stablecoin on June 18, 2019, and since that time, financial regulators have put the firm on the hot seat. Following Facebook's audacious crypto exploits, U.S. authorities have proposed the, quote, "Keep Big Tech Out of Finance Act" draft legislation, which is aimed at making it impossible for large tech firms like Apple and others to develop their cryptocurrencies. Okay. See, this is where I think Apple is fucking up. I think, and I'll take a step back on that statement, only because I've never heard like Tim or any of the executives at Apple considering, what their moves concerning cryptocurrencies would be. So I can't say definitively, they're wasting their time or whatever. But where I wanted to point out that I think they're fucking up is that I don't think that they should be focusing on cryptocurrencies at all. In the sense that I don't believe that they should be worrying about trying to make a cryptocurrency. Now here's where it gets interesting. I believe that Apple could best leverage themselves as hardware producers. And no, I don't mean farming shit out to other entities and whatnot. I mean, even though some stuff would need to be farmed out. But I'm saying that at one point, Apple was known for producing really fucking excellent hardware. The design was nice and sleek. The opening up of your desktop was really quite interesting, honestly. Assuming you were smart enough to disconnect all your peripherals first. But the point being that at one point in time, they were a much more hardware-oriented company. And I think that their focus on some of their projects, I think, like the iPhone, it's cool and all, but I don't know. I've never owned one, so there you go. I don't see the incentive at throwing $1,000 at a fucking cell phone. I don't. But anyway, what I think Apple should be working on, in my opinion, is I've talked about this multiple times, like a form factor, a desktop that you can expand upon. So like it's a It's a base model desktop that has several bays for you to insert additional miners into, right? And it's got its own onboard storage so that you can download the blockchain of the cryptocurrency or cryptocurrencies that you're mining with your device. And just, don't even worry about any of this regulatory bullshit. Get into manufacturing cheap, fast, fucking fast miners that you can put in the hands of the everyman. That the everyman can go down to the Apple store and buy the $500 base model, or the $900 base model, or whatever. That there would be certain parameters of the device, of course, that would improve with the pay scale. But the point being is that I believe that Apple could bring to market a hardware device that is an expandable mining platform, right? So like I said, I envision it being kind of like an Atari interface, where back in the day where you had those cassette games, right? Where you have the little bay on the top of it and you slap the thing down there and you make sure that you blew it clean, because any little fleck of dust or whatever would cause a glitch. But, you put the cartridge into the game, power it on, and you play the game, right? Well, I think that mining could be made to be the same way with a sophisticated enough platform. So you're working on probably like 3 to 5 year operation out of a device, before it's no longer profitable, or maybe even shorter time intervals, but again, you'd probably want to focus less on the initial entry price for it and concern yourself more with possibly getting a cut of the miners' profits or something like that, or at least focus on the secondary purchases of the modules, because you won't want just the base model. It'll only have maybe like 2 onboard miners and then like 3 to 5 bays, or 3 to 7 or 9 bays that you can add more miners to it. Of course, the issue of heat and whatnot, yeah, that's always a consideration. But what I'm saying is that I think that miners, that if Apple were to focus their capabilities on designing really, really awesome fucking hardware, and focus that on making a consumer grade miner that anybody could pick off the shelf, take home, hook up, fire it up with a Mac OS, of course, or whatever they're going with these days. I don't think they call it Mac OS anymore, or iOS or Apple OS. I don't know. Anyway, have your OS on it. Have it be your hardware. So, of course, if there's any kind of repairs or whatever, they have to go to you, or they have to go to, an Apple certified technician. And, of course, that creates jobs. So, again, I think this is, I invested in Apple a long time ago. And I went through the period when it went down to $4 a fucking share, and then it went back up again. And, of course, I'm not going to go into why I didn't stay with it, because if I did, I'd have made a shit ton of money. Anyway, point being that I've always believed in Apple as a company that's always trying to innovate new shit. And I've always said that one of the issues with mining, of course, is the fact that most of it is quite disorganized. Patches being put out by, just kids in their off time or whatever. And I think that if we were to see a more serious player like an Apple or an Intel come into the space, or even Microsoft, they got their whole Xbox thing. I think making an Xbox / miner is just an awesome idea, and I'm amazed that they haven't tried to pursue anything like that yet, or at least to my knowledge. It might be on their R&D shelf or some shit. They always develop stuff that never makes it out to market. There's just like not enough appeal score or something. But I think that Apple really has to let up the reins on this a little bit. That you'd want to make it a device that people could mine whatever fucking cryptocurrency they want. Of course, they could probably get away with making a miner that only mined their cryptocurrency or only mined specific cryptocurrencies. But I think that if they left it completely open, that they would get even further penetration. And again, I think that this space, mining in general, has been fraught with scams. And so seeing somebody like Apple or Intel or IBM get really serious about manufacturing a consumer grade miner, that would, be really fast and have a lot of hashing power, but maybe be a lot lower in price. Because, we're talking about entities with global reach as far as manufacturing capacity is concerned. So, why we haven't seen a bigger uptake in interest in mining from them it's kind of interesting to me. But like I said, I think that would be the best path for Apple to take. I mean, honestly, I think it is ripe for the taking. I think that if there were such an entity, again, on the grade of Apple, Intel, IBM, what's that other one, AMD, or even NVIDIA, if we were to see one of these big hardware entities put a lot of interest in, a lot of focus, on manufacturing something to that effect, I think that we would definitely see an uptick in the quality of their portfolio, or their existence in your portfolio. I'm kind of dragging here. I think I need more caffeine. Hold on one moment. There we go. Well, this next thing I got is it's kind of a step in a different direction, but we've seen some interesting moves with regard to securities or security type things, investment vehicles in the crypto space, and we've even seen some that are going to be coming to fruition soon, I suppose, with Backed. But we got to wonder who is coming out first. I mean, there's always been, or not always, but there's already been some entities out there, some exchanges doing Bitcoin ETFs. So new ones coming out is like, you got to wonder if you get used to trading one ETF on one exchange, how much interest you would have in going to others. I don't know. People are experimental. People like to try out new shit. Anyway, I got this article here. It's on news.bitcoin.com. Bitcoin ETF, how SEC exemptions help firms offer interim products. There are several exemptions to the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission offers that allow companies to launch their Bitcoin investment products without registration. While waiting for the SEC to approve their Bitcoin ETF, some firms have taken advantage of these exemptions to offer an interim product. New Bitcoin product emerges. Despite efforts by many companies, the SEC still has not yet approved a Bitcoin exchange-traded fund, ETF. The Commission has been taking its time to evaluate any proposed rule changes for such a product that might have come its way, repeatedly extending the time it takes to make a decision on each. One high-profile Bitcoin ETF that has been waiting for approval from the SEC for over a year is SolidX Bitcoin shares issued by VanEck SolidX Bitcoin Trust to be listed on CBOE BZX Exchange. While waiting for the Commission's approval, VanEck and SolidX decided to go ahead and offer their product under Rule 144A of the Securities Act of 1933 as amended. Shares offered under this rule are exempt from registration requirements SolidX CEO Daniel H. Galancy commented, quote, "As the first Bitcoin product in the U.S. with standard ETF creation and redemption, an established clearing and settlement process, institutional investors can finally gain exposure to Bitcoin with a familiar context. SolidX Management LLC is the sponsor, and VanEck Securities Corp is the marketing agent of this new investment product, which commenced on September 4th. The sponsor fee is 2% and the issuance fee is 0.9%. The trust BTC is kept in cold storage with insurance against theft or loss. Quote, shares may be redeemed by authorized participants in baskets and redemption proceeds will be in Bitcoin, VanEck detailed. CBOE BZX Exchange Inc. originally filed a proposed rule change with the SEC to list and trade shares of SolidX Bitcoin shares issued by VanEck SolidX Bitcoin Trust on June 20, 2018. The exchange withdrew the filing early this year when the U.S. government shut down but refiled on January 30th. After multiple meetings with the companies involved, the SEC designated October 18th as the date by which it will make a decision on this proposed rule change. VanEck and SolidX's 144A product cannot be called a Bitcoin ETF. However, since it will not be traded on an exchange, its shares are quoted on OTC Link ATS, an SEC-regulated alternative trading system. The firm emphasized that OTC Link ATS is not an exchange and has limited liquidity. Further, instead of being available to the public, 144A shares are restricted securities available to only qualified institutional buyers. Yeah, whatever. Besides the proposed rule change for shares issued by VanEck SolidX Bitcoin Trust, the SEC is also considering a proposed rule change filed by NYSE Arca Inc. for Bitwise Bitcoin ETF Trust. The Commission has also designated October 13th as the date by which it will make a decision on this proposed rule change. Rule 144A and who can invest. A company may not offer or sell securities unless the offering has been registered with the SEC or an exemption from registration is available. The exemption which VanEck and SolidX have decided to take advantage of is under Rule 144A. It provides a safe harbor exemption from the registration requirements of the Securities Act of 1933 for certain resales of restricted securities to qualified institutional buyers. The Jumpstart Our Business Startups Jobs Act, signed into law by former President Barack Obama on April 5, 2012, directed the SEC to amend the Securities Act and expand several exemptions. The Jobs Act in 2012 amended Rule 144A to allow brokers and dealers to offer 144A securities through general solicitations. General solicitation may also increase liquidity for investors in Rule 144A securities if resale platforms develop for such products, VanEck explained. The company confirmed that only QIBs may trade the VanEck SolidX Bitcoin Trust 144A shares. QIBs are defined generally as an institution with a portfolio of securities valued at over $100 million, a registered broker-dealer with at least $10 million in securities owned or managed, and a bank with at least $100 million in third-party securities and has an audited net worth of at least $25 million. Examples of QIBs include business development companies, corporations, ETFs, hedge funds, insurance companies, mutual funds, and registered investment advisors. QIBs are not to be confused with accredited investors, which could include any natural person whose net worth exceeds $1 million. A natural person is not considered a QIB, Van Eck emphasized. So basically, you got to construct some bullshit shell corp and draw up the right books, send the right signals, and you're in business. How the interim product affects Bitcoin ETF. Van Eck and SolidX have not given up on their goal to launch a Bitcoin ETF, which the proposed rule change for their Bitcoin ETF is still pending with the SEC as before. Van Eck explained that should the commission approve its public Bitcoin ETF, the Van Eck SolidX Bitcoin Trust 144A shares will cease to be quoted on OTC Link ATS, and new baskets of shares will not be created for sale. Quote, existing baskets of 144A shares may be redeemed after the public registration, Van Eck described, adding that, quote, the public shares will have a separate unrestricted CUSIP number. After the public registration, holders of existing 144A shares may continue to hold their shares as is for the next 12 months or sell them into the public market, where their shares will become fungible with the public shares. The company elaborated, quote, 12 months from the date of registration, the restricted CUSIP for the 144A shares will convert to the CUSIP for the public shares, adding, quote, anyone holding 144A shares at the 12-month anniversary will then be holding shares with the public CUSIP. Holders will have the ability but not the obligation to sell their shares. Regulation A, D, and S exemptions. Other than Rule 144A for resale of restricted securities to qualified institutional buyers, there are other exemptions from SEC registration which companies can take advantage of. Among them are Regulation A, Regulation D, and Regulation S. Regulation A provides exemptions for two tiers of offerings. Among other rules, Tier 1 allows securities offerings of up to $20 million in a 12-month period, while Tier 2 offers up to $50 million within the same time period. The Jobs Act, adopted by the SEC, also expanded exemptions provided by Regulation A. The resulting final rules are often referred to as Regulation A+. The SEC greenlighted two token offerings under Regulation A+, for the first time in July, as news.bitcoin.com reported. One was for Stacks tokens by Blockstack PBC, and the other was for Props tokens by YouNow, a live streaming app which claims to have 46 million users. Munid Ali, co-founder of decentralized app ecosystem Blockstack and CEO of Blockstack PBC, commented at the time that, quote, this is the first time in U.S. history that a crypto token offering has received SEC qualification. Regulation D also offers a number of exemptions, each with specific requirements that the issuer must meet. For example, Rule 504 of Regulation D permits certain issuers to offer and sell up to $5 million of securities in any 12-month period, while Rule 506 provides two distinct exemptions from registration. Blockstack used this method before it was approved under Regulation A+. There is also Regulation S, which provides safe harbor procedures for offshore sales of equity securities of U.S. issuers. Blockstack is also taking advantage of this exemption to offer its tokens to non-U.S. persons, according to the company's offering circular filed with the SEC. What do you think of companies taking advantage of some exemptions while they wait for the SEC to make a decision on their Bitcoin ETF? Let us know in the comments section below. And did anybody comment on this? Nobody has commented. Quite interesting. So yeah, that's kind of interesting, but I gotta wonder about the CUSIP designation, whether or not what it will change to in the event that they do not get qualified. You know, in the case of VanEck Solid Bitcoin Trust 144A shares, I think they might run into an issue there, because they say here the public shares will have a separate unrestricted CUSIP number. And so if they're sold into existence into fungible shares after 12 months, it says here 12 months from the date of registration, the restricted from the date of registration. 12 months from the date of registration. Let's see here. I don't know, that seems to me kind of interesting. Is it registration of the CUSIP number with VanEck, or is it after registration with the SEC? It's kind of interesting. Yeah, so I think that these guys are kind of walking a tightrope, and where they might see adoption abroad, because I'm certain that they either have different regulations, a lower regulatory threshold that they might have to meet in other jurisdictions. You know, I think they might have some trouble interfacing with U.S. customers. That again, you know, the lack of definitive establishment of like exactly what's going to happen after 12 months if they aren't qualified by the SEC and registered. You know, what if the SEC delays a little bit further, and then that 12 months comes up? They're not going to have the option to change them into public shares, because the public shares probably won't even exist. Now that's another thing, though. It talks about two separate entities, or two separate versions of the same thing, the CUSIPs. That they'll have public shares, and then they'll have the shares that are redeemed, you know, or that are purchased for redemption later on. But when they're redeemed, or when they're converted, rather, they're converted from private CUSIPs to public CUSIPs. And so, like, I don't know, that seems kind of weird to me. You know, because again, what if they're not qualified? Then they're not going to be able to get out anyway. Like if there's no entity that's able to redeem them back to US dollars or cryptocurrency, you know, and that's another thing. I guess the backing for this is going to be Bitcoin, and I got to think, you know, it's, you know, you look at these requirements for the value of things, you know, so like how it'll change the qualifications if it's worth $20 million or if it's worth less than $5 million. Well, like, what if it starts off being intended to be, you know, under $5 million, but then Bitcoin goes through the fucking roof in relative value? All of a sudden these guys have to file for some other kind of registration because it no longer applies to them. They're not managing $5 million anymore. They're managing, you know, $25 million or $35 million or $500 million. It doesn't matter. The point being that it would change the status because of the amount of liquidity that they're managing for customers. So I think that when these considerations, when viewed against the dynamism of the global market of cryptocurrencies, I think you can see where these will cause significant issues, and where it creates a greater incentive to simply not even bother. And not even bothering filing with the SEC or trying to report to the IRS or any other regulatory entity, simply because the change of status, could be on your end, it could be on the market end, it could be on their end, and dealing with that level of uncertainty is appropriate for somebody the likes of, say, Goldman Sachs, but you just don't have the fucking office power for it. You don't have enough employees to manage it. You don't have enough executives to manage it. You don't have enough storage space to manage all of it. And yet all of that shit is completely unnecessary for you to have a market that has appropriate liquidity to cover your investors' input and output, as well as some sort of surety insurance. And all without needing the additional fucking workload and the additional record keeping that you have to do, that you could be liable for some sort of breach sometime in the future. We're going to get into one of those too. But the point being is that the way it's set up, you're required to undertake a great more liability than is actually required. These people are asking you to create big-ass databases that to a hacker represent a fucking honeypot, a fucking treasure trove of information, if only they can get access to it. And I mean, shit, Jack Dorsey, okay, the guy that runs Twitter, his account got hacked the other day. That ought to tell you something about how secure your data really fucking is. Or how secure you really can make your data. Now, I could probably make Jack kind of a little more bulletproof than he is, but I don't know what kind of security measures he's already employing. But yeah, we were talking about breaches. And so this is an example of why gathering data is bad. And so this is on Forbes.com. It was authored by Davey Winder. So yes, penis. And this is authored on September 5th, 2019 at 1:45 a.m. No time zone. Come on, Davey. Gonna be that specific? Throw us a time zone. Unsecured Facebook databases leak data of 419 million users. Yes, penis. Earlier this year, Facebook quietly confirmed that millions of unencrypted Instagram passwords had been stored in plain text online. Since then, Facebook has been on a less than successful privacy public relations crusade, with an off-Facebook privacy tool found to not be quite what it seems, and the revelation that a technical flaw allowed children using the Messenger Kids app to participate in group chats with strangers, but without parental permission. The latest blow to the new privacy-friendly Facebook facade came just last night as news of a data leak exposing the phone numbers linked to 419 million user accounts broke. This security snafu really couldn't have come at a worse time for Facebook, as is evidenced by the efforts to minimize the number of phone numbers concerned. Here's everything known so far. How did more than 400 million Facebook user phone numbers get exposed? Databases that in general detailed the phone numbers of 419 million users linked to their Facebook account IDs were found to be unprotected by any password. This meant that anyone looking for such things could find, access those databases. Breaking the news at TechCrunch, Zach Whitaker revealed that multiple databases across several geographies included 133 million records on US-based Facebook users, 18 million records of users in the UK, and more than 50 million records on users in Vietnam. Each of these data records contained both the Facebook ID unique to every member and the phone number that was listed as being connected to that account. This despite Facebook announcing on April 4th, 2018 that it was making changes to, quote, better protect people's information by restricting access to this data. In that announcement, Facebook also said, quote, we know we have more work to do, which has been confirmed by this massive and massively embarrassing data leak. Massively embarrassing? You just endangered 400 million people, asshole. That's not embarrassing, that's a fucking tragedy. Continuing, the TechCrunch found that as well as phone numbers and Facebook IDs, some of the records in these unsecured databases also contained the user's name, gender, and location by country. Jesus fucking Christ! It is unknown at this time who the databases belong to or how the Facebook data was obtained. The server was not a Facebook one, however. What does Facebook say about this privacy snafu? A Facebook spokesperson told TechCrunch that, quote, this data is old and appears to have information obtained before we made changes last year to remove people's ability to find others using their phone numbers. That spokesperson also confirmed that the databases had been closed down, and there is no evidence that any Facebook accounts were compromised as a result. Of course, the account compromises could come later if any threat actors had access to the databases before they were removed. According to a Guardian report, Facebook is trying to play down the impact of the security and privacy mess by claiming that, quote, the actual number of users whose information was exposed was approximately 210 million because the 419 million records contained duplicates. However, Whitaker has tweeted that there is little evidence of duplication across the databases he has seen. Posting a screenshot of the server, Whitaker pointed out that he was told by way of background, quote, only 217 million are affected, but the screenshot shows that's just one of the multiple databases. Quote, Facebook is under a lot of pressure to try to minimize the number of phone numbers that were exposed, Whitaker said. What do security experts say about the Facebook data leak? Jake Moore, a cybersecurity specialist at ESET, says, quote, it seems crazy that personal data of this magnitude could be on a server unprotected in 2019, but this just highlights how data gets forgotten about and mistakes can happen. Moore goes on to say that, quote, even being able to see partial phone numbers can sometimes be just as damaging to users too, by which he means it could be used to confirm to threat actors the number you use to link to Facebook. Why is this of such value to an attacker? Just ask Jack Dorsey, CEO of Twitter, whose at Jack Twitter account was taken over by attackers who pulled off a SIM hijack attack against his mobile phone provider. President Trump has shrugged off concern about his Twitter account being hacked in a similar way, but everyone else should be taking notes here. Quote, while SIM-jacking cases are increasing and data such as mobile phone numbers could be stolen, Moore says it is a great time for users to jump across to authenticator apps which don't require verifying SMS, which could potentially get intercepted. Ethical hacker John Optenacker says that, quote, in general, it's best not to provide your phone number to online applications, period. Of course, a lot of services unfortunately require phone numbers for password reset or to enable two-factor authentication, which throws a spanner in the security advice works. If you enable 2FA, Optenacker says, and you certainly should if it's available, then always opt for an authenticator app or hardware security key. OptiNacker concludes, quote, because we've seen a rise in SIM swapping attacks in several countries recently, it's important to protect your phone number the best you can. Updated September 5th to clarify that the databases in question contained Facebook data rather than belonged to Facebook itself. Whew. Yeah. So, these are the same people that say that they're going to run a cryptocurrency. And again, this demonstrates an example to you of why Apple trying to get into the cryptocurrency space actually just opens them up as a bigger target for adversarial actors out there. And so, yeah, I think that one of these companies is going to figure it out. Facebook probably being the one where they're actually going to launch the Libra, and it's actually going to work for about a month. And then all of the exploits that the fucking hackers have been gathering for the last 2 years are put into use, and they will suck Facebook's basket of fucking collateral dry. I'm convinced that's about how it's going to go. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into some music. And I've been dying to play some 12-Foot Ninjas, so here it is, coming for you, here on Coin Metal. And that was Dope with Survive. And it is with that I'd like to draw this episode to a close. Thank you very much for listening. I certainly do appreciate the support. We will be back again on Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so until then, I want y'all to trade safe. Do your homework. And watch out for your own bunghole, because nobody's going to do it for you. As far as our last dance is concerned, I hadn't actually picked anything out as normal. You know, I kind of like to save that one, and right into the very last minute. And I'm kind of scrounging through here to see exactly what would fit, because we got a little bit of time left over. So I think we can manage something really cool. And let's see here, Clutch. Yeah, we haven't played any Clutch tonight. Let's go for it. Escape from the Prison Planet. Last Dance here on Coin Metal. Thank you again for listening, and y'all have an excellent weekend. Good night.